What if I told you that the one thing you're always searching for is actually the reason you keep failing? I'm talking about motivation, that incredible electric feeling when you start something new, the rush of a brilliant idea. You feel unstoppable. You tell yourself, this time is different. But what happens a week later? When the work gets boring and the excitement fades, that powerful motivation vanishes, and you're left with another half-finished project, feeling like a failure. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You've just been using the wrong fuel. I'm the Cosmic Sage, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you a story about a young gunsmith and an impossible rifle. This story holds a secret to unlocking a power inside you that is far more reliable than motivation, a quiet force that doesn't fade. The only thing that guarantees you will finish what you start. Stay with me, because the lesson he learned might just be the one you've been waiting for. But before we ride, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now. Every single day, I bring you stories that'll teach you the difference between starting and finishing. And if you've been riding with me, show love with that like button. Drop a comment. Where are you from? What's one project you started with motivation but never finished? Now let's get into it. The year was 1879, and the town of Silver Creek sat in the Arizona Territory, where gunsmiths were as important as sheriffs. Living in that town was a 24-year-old gunsmith named Owen Callahan. Owen had inherited a small workshop from his father, a man who'd been one of the finest gunsmiths in the entire Southwest. The shop was filled with files, lathes, drilling tools, and the smell of gun oil and metal shavings. Owen was talented, very talented. He understood how rifles worked, how to balance a trigger, how to true a barrel, but Owen was impatient. He was bored by the simple, everyday work of the shop, cleaning a rancher's old revolver, repairing a broken firing pin. Simple maintenance work. He felt this work was beneath him. In his mind, Owen was an innovator. His notebooks were filled with designs for revolutionary firearms, rifles with faster loading mechanisms, pistols with better accuracy, designs that had never been built before. These ideas were his passion. He'd work on them for hours, fueled by a rush of creative energy. But the moment he hit a difficult problem, a part he couldn't machine properly, a design flaw he couldn't solve, his excitement would vanish. He'd get frustrated, push the project aside, wait for the next brilliant idea to strike him. Because of this, his shop was failing. He was so busy chasing the next exciting idea that he neglected the real work that paid the bills. Dust settled on the counter. The loyal customers from his father's day slowly stopped coming. The silence in the shop was growing louder than the sound of his tools. Here's the first lesson, friends. Motivation gets you started, but motivation without discipline means you're just a collector of beginnings. The Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit." Owen had motivation. He had brilliant ideas, but he didn't have a habit of finishing. And without that, all his talent meant nothing. One autumn morning, a Confederate War veteran walked into the shop. His name was Colonel Marcus Whitfield. He was in his 60s, respected, wealthy, and still sharp as a tack. He placed a rifle on Owen's workbench. It was beautiful, custom-made, engraved barrel, polished walnut stock. "My grandfather carried this rifle," the colonel said, his voice quiet. "It hasn't fired in 30 years. I've taken it to every gunsmith from here to Texas. They all say it's beyond repair. They say your father was the only one who could have fixed it." The colonel looked at Owen, studying him. "They say you have his skill. I'll pay you enough to save the shop, if you can make it fire again." A flash of excitement shot through Owen. This wasn't a boring repair. This was a challenge. A legendary rifle that no one else could fix. A chance to prove he was a master craftsman. "I'll do it," Owen said confidently, his mind already racing. For the first few days, Owen was consumed by the rifle. He worked with fiery passion, carefully disassembling the complex mechanism, piece by piece. It was thrilling, but then the real work began. The rifle had over 300 individual parts: springs, pins, screws, chambers. To find the problem, every single one had to be cleaned, inspected, measured. It was slow. It was tedious. It was profoundly boring. After a week of this painstaking work, Owen's motivation was completely gone. He stared at the hundreds of tiny parts laid out on his bench and felt nothing but rising frustration. His mind wandered back to his exciting new gun designs. This is a waste of time, he thought. I could be creating something new, something revolutionary. Here's the second lesson. The test of discipline isn't when the work is exciting. It's when the work is boring. The Japanese philosophy of Kaizen teaches continuous improvement in small increments, not giant leaps. Small, boring, daily progress. Owen was about to learn whether he had what it took, or whether he'd quit like he always did. One afternoon, in a moment of frustration, Owen accidentally knocked a tray of tiny springs onto the floor. As he got on his hands and knees to pick them up, a wave of despair washed over him. He felt like a failure. He decided he'd call the colonel in the morning and tell him the rifle was unfixable. That night, unable to sleep, he was cleaning out his father's old desk, ready to give up on the whole business. In a hidden drawer, he found something, a set of small leather-bound journals, his father's work logs. He opened the first one, not knowing what he was looking for. He expected to read about passion, about genius, about the art of gunsmithing, but there was none of that. Instead, the pages were filled with simple, humble entries. Tuesday, repaired Mr. Henderson's shotgun, broken firing pin, took 2 hours. Simple work, but he needed it for hunting season. Thursday, young boy brought in his grandfather's revolver, not worth much money, but it meant everything to him. Spent the afternoon fixing it for free. The look on his face was payment enough. Wednesday, worked all day on the barrel alignment for the sheriff's rifle. My eyes ached, still not right. Failed to fix it today. We'll try again tomorrow. Page after page, the same. A simple, honest record work. Slow, boring, difficult work. At the end of the first journal, his father had written a single paragraph. A man who works only when he is inspired will be a man of many beginnings and no endings. The rifle does not fire because it is inspired. It fires because it is built correctly, following precise rules. The work of a craftsman must be the same. You do not show up because you feel good. You show up, and in doing the work, you might, if you're lucky, begin to feel good. The words hit Owen like a physical blow. He'd been looking at his work all wrong. His father wasn't a master because he was always inspired. He was a master because he always showed up. He had the discipline to do the boring work. Day after day, that was his secret. Here's the third lesson. Greatness isn't about brilliant moments. It's about showing up on the boring days. The American inventor Thomas Edison said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." Owen's father had understood that. He'd perspired every single day. Now Owen would have to do the same. The next morning, Owen walked into his shop a different man. He didn't wait for a feeling of excitement. He didn't look at his own design sketches. He walked over to the hundreds of parts of the colonel's rifle and picked up a single tiny spring. He made a new rule for himself. He would work on the rifle for 4 hours every morning. No matter what, even if it was boring, even if he was frustrated, he would just show up and do the work. The first few days were the hardest. His mind screamed at him to stop, to do something more interesting. One morning, he spent the entire 4 hours trying to clean a single stubborn chamber, making almost no visible progress. The old Owen would have quit in rage. But the new Owen just calmly put his tools down at the end of 4 hours and said to himself, "I'll try again tomorrow." Slowly, a change began to happen. As he worked, he started to find a new kind of satisfaction, a quiet pride, not in a brilliant idea, but in a job well done. He began to see beauty in small things, the perfect fit of two parts, the clean shine of polished steel. He wasn't just fixing a rifle anymore. He was learning his father's craft. He was building character. Here's the fourth lesson. When you commit to the process, you don't just build the thing, you build yourself. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a figure. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." Owen was ripening, slowly, through the boring work. After 3 long weeks of steady, disciplined work, he found it. A single tooth on a gear deep inside the firing mechanism was cracked. So small, so insignificant, it was almost invisible. Something you would only find if you had the patience to examine every single piece. With the careful hands of a surgeon, he replaced the gear. Then, slowly and methodically, he began to reassemble the 300 pieces. Finally, the moment came. He loaded a single round, aimed at a target in the back of the shop, took a breath, and pulled the trigger. The rifle fired. The sound echoed through the workshop. It was the most beautiful sound Owen had ever heard. It was the sound of a promise kept, the sound of discipline, the sound of good work. The next day, Colonel Whitfield returned. Owen simply pointed to the rifle on the workbench. The colonel picked it up, inspected it, then looked at Owen with surprise. "May I?" Owen nodded. The colonel stepped outside, aimed at a distant post, and fired. The rifle performed perfectly. The old man's eyes filled with moisture. "My grandfather carried this rifle at Shiloh. My father taught me to shoot with it. I haven't heard this sound in 30 years. He turned to Owen. "You haven't just fixed a rifle, son. You've given me back a piece of my family." Owen understood then. The work wasn't about him. It wasn't about proving he was a genius. It was about service, about preserving something that mattered to someone else. It was about the steady, honest work that keeps the world turning. Here's the fifth lesson. The reward isn't just finishing the project. It's becoming the kind of person who can finish the project. The Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said, "The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the earth." Owen had learned to walk on earth, to do the small, boring, beautiful work of craftsmanship. That was the real miracle. Owen fixed the rifle. He saved his shop. But more importantly, he fixed himself. He learned the most important lesson a craftsman can ever learn. Discipline beats motivation every single time. Now, friends, let me bring this truth into your life right now. What is the lesson for us? First, motivation is a spark that starts the engine, but discipline is the fuel that keeps it running. You need the spark to get going. But if you don't have fuel, you won't get far. A car that's all spark and no fuel will just sit there making exciting noises but going nowhere. Let me give you real examples. Jerry Seinfeld, one of the most successful comedians ever, has a rule he calls "don't break the chain." He writes jokes every single day, even when he doesn't feel funny, even when he doesn't feel motivated. He just shows up and writes. That discipline created one of the greatest comedy careers in history. Stephen King, the horror writer who sold over 350 million books, writes 2,000 words every single day, including Christmas, including his birthday. He doesn't wait for inspiration. He sits down and does the work. That's discipline. Kobe Bryant wasn't the most naturally talented player in the NBA, but he practiced at 4 a.m. every day while others slept. Not because he felt motivated every morning, but because he had discipline. That made him a legend. The pattern is always the same. Discipline, not motivation, is what separates masters from dreamers. Second, learn to love the process, not just the prize. The real reward isn't finishing the project. The real reward is becoming the kind of person who can finish the project. The pride that comes from doing hard, boring work is deeper and more lasting than the fleeting excitement of a new idea. Let me make this practical for your life today. Maybe you're trying to build a business. The first few weeks were exciting. Now it's boring. Spreadsheets, emails, customer service. The motivation is gone. This is where discipline matters. Show up. Do the boring work. That's what builds empires. Maybe you're trying to get in shape. The first week at the gym was great. New equipment, new routines, lots of energy. Now it's month 2 and you're sore, tired, and the gym feels like a chore. The motivation is gone. This is where discipline matters. Go anyway. That's what builds bodies. Maybe you're learning a skill. The first lessons were fun. Now it's repetitive practice. Scales on the piano. Basic drills in your sport. Grammar exercises in your language. The motivation is gone. This is where discipline matters. Practice anyway. That's what builds mastery. Third, just show up when you don't feel like it. When you're tired. When you're bored. When you'd rather do anything else. That's when it counts the most. Don't worry about the whole staircase. Just focus on taking the next single step. Clean one part. Write one paragraph. Make one phone call. Do one rep. That's how great things are truly built. Not by lightning strikes of motivation, but by the steady, quiet, and unstoppable power of showing up day after day after day. The writer James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." Owen didn't achieve because he had better goals than before. He achieved because he built a system for hours every morning, no matter what. That system, that discipline, is what changed everything. Here's your challenge. Think about one thing you started with motivation, but never finished. One project sitting there half done. One goal you abandoned when the excitement faded. For the next 30 days, commit to it with discipline, not motivation. Set a specific time, even just 30 minutes a day, and show up, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Don't wait to feel inspired. Don't wait to feel motivated. Just show up and do the boring work. Because here's the truth Owen learned and I'm teaching you. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. Build your life on what stays, not what visits. Before you go, I need something from you. If this story showed you the difference between motivation and discipline, if it reminded you that showing up matters more than feeling inspired, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Drop a comment below. Tell me, what's one project you're committing to finish with discipline, not motivation? Let's build a community of people who show up even when they don't feel like it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Every single day, the Cosmic Sage brings you stories that'll teach you how to finish what you start. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who has a graveyard of unfinished projects. This is a Cosmic Sage, reminding you that motivation is the spark that starts the engine, but discipline is the fuel that keeps it running. Owen Callahan spent years chasing motivation, starting projects and abandoning them when the excitement faded. One rifle taught him that discipline, not motivation, is the secret. The philosopher William James said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes." Alter your attitude about work. Stop waiting to feel inspired. Start showing up consistently. Clean one gear. Fix one part. Do one small thing. And tomorrow do it again. And the day after that, do it again. That's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It won't give you that rush of motivation, but it will give you something far more valuable. Results. finished projects, completed goals, a reputation as someone who actually does what they say. Until tomorrow, friends, stop chasing motivation. Start building discipline. Show up when you don't feel like it. That's where greatness lives. In the boring, steady, unglamorous work of showing up day after day after day. The rifle doesn't care if you're motivated. It only cares if you show up and do the work. Your dreams are the same way.